This is Pod Populi, podcast for the people.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Femme Force podcast. My name is Rachael, and I am your host. And today I'm joined by Jen Cohen, who's an intuitive consultant, a channeler, and former entertainment executive who now helps individuals and organizations lead with energy, alignment, and intention. So I'm really excited to have her here to talk about, redefining leadership and how she's doing that in both her business and life. So thank you so much for being here, Jen. I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So tell the audience just about your background and how you ended up working in, these different ways.
Yeah, it's not a linear projection into what I was doing, but I spent 27 years in the entertainment industry across film, television, large format film, animation, and in various jobs in the corporate sector, through publicity, marketing, consumer products, and then on the production side as well. So kind of all over the board. Worked a lot in LA and then had a 10-year stint in Manhattan, New York. And while I was in Manhattan, kind of had it wasn't overnight. It was definitely a growing interest that I had thought that I couldn't do, and then one day just was enlightened that I could become an entrepreneur and start my own business as an intuitive consultant and channel.
I mean, and that's amazing. And going from like working in the corporate world and in such a really like high pressure job that a production, executive would be.
Yeah.
What made you walk away and start something completely different and opposite?
Yeah, and it was scary. It was nerve-wracking for sure. It had gotten to a point in the industry where the format of how we consume our content is changing rapidly, and so people trying to figure that out, and then a lot of acquisitions, a lot of kind of trial and error, which is what this timing is all about. And I found myself having multiple bosses in a very short period of time, and then the last boss that I had. It wasn't a fit. I'll put it that way. It wasn't.
Been there. Yep, been there.
Yeah, wasn't a great fit, and it was intentional. I can look back and say now, because had it been a fit, I would have just kind of treaded water and done what I had been doing. And I was pretty much, to the point of where I wasn't really looking to run a studio. I wasn't looking to run a production company or anything like that. So I had kind of hit the limit of where I wanted to be executive wise. And through those interactions with that boss, it really allowed me the time. And I probably could have put my notice in 2 to 3 years before I did, which I think is important.
Once you're on the hamster wheel and you're like, you're just doing the motions, I feel like just like you said, treading water. You're just like, I'm just trying to get by.
Yeah, and my intuitive sense was very slowly, beautifully guiding me towards what I was going to be doing, but it wasn't going to be a shock or jolt to my nervous system. And I've had those before. I've been a part of mass layoffs, and one day just like an entire department cut, and you're just like, whoa, my head just completely turned upside down, and that's a different type of energy. And so this energy was really allowing me to leave on my terms, and through that circumstance with this boss, there was not a doubt. And so the ping pong balling of going back and forth, should I, shouldn't I? It's a steady paycheck, the golden handcuffs, the travel, this, that, the other. It's not so bad. But I was tired of kind of living life like that. It's not so bad. And then I would catch myself, talking to friends and family where I was like, whose voice is that coming out of my mouth? Like, that is not who I want to be. And so by the time that I came to the conclusion to leave. And it was during a meditation where I had been, voicing over and over to people, like, it's like talking to a wall, like talking to these people, is like talking to a wall.
Yeah.
And in that meditation, I saw a vision of myself, and she was looking me dead in the eyes, and she said to me, it's like talking to a wall. And I'm like, ew. I'm like, it's time for me to leap. And when I gave notice to HR, it was the most freeing feeling when I hung up that phone. And the HR representative was like, "Are you sure this is, I don't know about this. Are you sure? Are you sure?" And it's a testament to
Yeah.
timing, because had I had that conversation 6 months earlier, I might have been swayed, like, no, I'm not sure. So it
No,
was
and I
time.
totally get that from, being involved in like mass layoffs, like it's horrendous. And I mean, you can prepare all you want, but you really never see it coming because you're like, but like there's this little slim chance of hope that it won't be me. And
Yeah,
so the jolt to your system that it does take emotionally, physically, the whole 9 yards is vast. And I'm always like, ride the emotions. If you want to cry in bed for 3 days, do that. So having the ability to also make the choice for yourself has to feel really empowering. But there has to be a lot of fear or doubts, like because you're leaving,
yeah.
you know, corporate corporate lifestyle and and capitalism and all the things that like make our world go
Exactly.
round over here.
Yeah.
So how did you deal with that kind of the fears and the doubts of transitioning from like, a steady 9 to 5 or, 9 to 9, as some of us are
Yeah.
in?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Um, this is going to sound interesting to some people, but I really, and this kind of happens naturally when you leave a job, you start to distance yourself from people.
Yeah.
And the people that I had surrounded myself with were all of that mindset of like, you need a job. You're gonna, like,
Hmm.
this is the only way to make money. This is it. And so I had been surrounding myself with people like that. And I was one of those people. And, there's a sense of stress in those
Yeah.
conversations. I'll help you find a job. I'll get your resume to someone. All very nice, very nice. But there's an underlying of like, oh God, like, I don't want to be in the position you're in. I'm going to rack up some
Yeah.
karma points here, and I'm going to, send your resume off to people. That's totally fine, until it's not fine. Until it's, no, this isn't aligning with my energy now. This isn't where I want to be on the hamster wheel again, which is the same job, a different building, same people, that I'm
Yeah.
dealing with in that industry. And I just needed a clean break. And so what I found is that when I started to call in new people that were entrepreneurs that had had their own businesses for years and years, and hearing their stories and hearing how they lived and how they made a successful business, it was hope. And
I love that.
and yeah, it was resources too. And it felt good to put my energy towards something that I wholeheartedly knew was my purpose.
And for people who don't know, what is intuitive consulting? Like
Yeah.
what do you do?
It's funny. I didn't know what it was until I literally had a download of what it is. But all through my career, I was never hired for my PowerPoint skills, but I was hired for how I communicated with people. I had a lot of jobs where I was the person in the middle of talking with corporate and the person talking with the creative side of the entertainment house. And so, I'd be talking to actors, writers, development, producers, talent, and then I'd almost be translating what they were saying to the much more corporate, organizational, financial, legal sides of the house. And so that was just something that came very naturally to me, from birth, I'm going to say. I mean, very, very easily. I could just kind of understand both sides of the coin. And I got to a point in my career where I would be talking with someone on the corporate side even before I went to the creative side of the house. And I said, this is what's going to be happening. And they said, no way, no way. And that's what would be happening. And of course, there's some patterning there and there's some experience there. But when I would come back, they would always say, you're so intuitive. You're so intuitive. And I didn't even understand what that meant. It was just how I operated.
Yeah.
But so that was again a sign that was happening, that other people were basically reflecting to me what I didn't see in myself yet. And so when I was able to quit and start my business, I knew that channeling was going to be part of that, but I wasn't quite ready to take that full leap because I was still very much like, oh gosh, that's too out there. I'm gonna, I've still got, most of my contacts are in the business. What are they going to say about that? And so it was kind of like an intermediary step. And I'm like, yeah, yeah.
And the
So,
doubt, like the doubt
yeah,
of thinking, like, what are these other people going to be thinking about this?
exactly. So it was like baby steps. But at that time, so I said intuitive consultant, and some people, again, they wrote me off right away, and that's fine. That's not who I was wanting to work with anyway.
Yeah.
But as an intuitive consultant, basically what I do is I help people, businesses, professionals get clear on their intuition. It's commonly referred to as our sixth sense. I like to think of it as our first sense.
I love that.
Yeah, and it's something that we're all born with, and it's something that we just have to remember and come back to, because all the other senses are prioritized and they begin to have cultural relevance. What we see is acceptable, culturally and societally. What we say, how we say it, and it really kind of gets. It muddles our intuitive self. It muddles our truth. And so there's lots of nuances to it, but I really love that understanding and that visual of we're relearning something that we were born with.
So, when you're working with individuals or with businesses, what does a practice look like when they come in?
Yeah. So the first thing is sometimes people say, I don't have intuition. I'm like, nope, you do. You do. So it's an awareness and it's a demystifying as well. We're not witches. We don't see dead people, I mean, it's
We wish it'd be so much
right.
fun.
But it's all those things. So a lot of times it'll just really start with, you know, coming to an understanding of what we're doing here. And it's basically our sense. This is how we'll start a session. It's our sense that's trying to help us break patterns and shine a light on some blind spots. And so as we move through exercises, as we get to know our way of leading, as we get to know our work ethic, and as we get to know our values, we start to really start to evaluate how we're operating with those. And it could be something as easy as, how's your body feeling right now?
Mm, yeah,
And people are like, I have no idea.
they do. Because
No
we're not
idea.
checking in with ourselves ever
Yeah.
or at all.
Ever. And so it can, sometimes we'll start there with, okay, after our time together, what would you like to do? Would you like to take a walk down by the ocean? Would you like to, take just a walk outside your neighborhood? Would you like to take a drive, take a shower, like be around water in some way? If you can't get somewhere nature wise, would you like to read? What would you like to do? Not what you have to do. What would you like to do? And that's a really different distinguishing point that we talk about as well. And when I don't have time, okay, well, then let's sit here during our time and let's visualize it. And by visualizing it, our body can start to say, oh, okay. And they'll start to relax. And again, I'm rushing through this with you, but,
No, you're good.
relaxing, taking a deep breath, maybe breathing consciously for the first time in a day and just settling in. And I said, okay, now how does your body feel? And it's just like, oh, that feels a little bit less restrictive, a little bit less open. And that was, 15 seconds. And so again, we'll start baby steps like that. And then it can run the gamut, of our sessions together, from if someone is dealing with, a difficult boss, if someone's dealing with difficult clients, if, coworkers, we'll walk through that. I was just working with someone that had to do their yearly review, and that brought up a lot of issue. And it started out with,
You're feeling it all from
yeah,
all the past
yeah.
things.
Exactly, exactly. And so this person was really fighting it. And it was just like, okay, let's dive into like what you're fighting. And then it just becomes, a little bit easier. But those things that seem momentous or monumental, I should say,
Yeah.
once we tap into our intuition, once we can get into a neutral spot, because when we're in our intuition, it can only be accessed in our present moment. So anytime that we go to the future or the past, we have completely gone out of our intuitive sense and our intuitive self. So a lot of the time is coming back and me really holding the space with that person to be allowed to come back. Again, voice out, what they need, but then come back to the present moment and tackle what's asking to be looked at.
And I would think this has a lot of effect on how people develop in their leadership style. It has to help a lot with that
Yeah.
because I feel like a lot of times you become a manager like through promotions or everything else, and they're just like, all right, here's a team, now go. But
Yes.
nobody actually teaches you how to
Mm-mm.
be a manager, how to be a leader. And there's all these different styles and things like that. But it's such a personal choice on how you lead. Like that, this has to be really helpful to give clarity.
Yeah, it is. And that's also what I see as a challenge for some people, because they're raised in a corporation or they've succeeded in a corporation by following kind of a toxic leadership. And so I see this a lot with women too, who are really taking on the masculine. And we're in a different age now. And it's I'm actually seeing males be able to tap into the feminine a little bit easier than females to tap into the feminine, which I mean kind of makes sense.
Yeah, well, we're, pigeonholed into trying to, do it all and have all these different kind of feelings, but they're always saying, I mean, look at what happened at Meta with Mark Zuckerberg, where he's like, we need
Mm-hmm.
more masculine energy. And I think that everyone has masculine and feminine energy in them, no matter how you want to do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm in a male dominated but male viewed role. And I always say that like part of the stigma with the industry is like, I should be wearing 511s and like really honing into my masculine energy. And I've never been like that. I've always tried to be my authentic self and lead with my femininity because it is what made me diverse and it's what made me recognizable in this industry and like someone there where they're like, oh, I'm going to remember her.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And that is refreshing. And what I'll also say is that I was very similar to what you're describing. And when I got out of it, I realized how masculine I was
Right.
acting. Yeah, it was unbelievable. Like I really had to shed some tears over it because I was feminine in a so skewed masculine world that femininity in the world that I'm in now is so masculine. Like it's all relative to where
Yeah.
you're going every day. And so with executives, I again, what I'll do is I'll take them back to present moment. I'll give an example of someone that I was just working with, and they were really hung up on a presentation that they were going to pitch a client for some big business, huge business. It would be record breaking, it would be big. And of course, all the prep was happening, and it was probably a week before the presentation, and we were going through it. And, everything was buttoned up and it looked beautiful. And then I asked them, I said, okay, so walk me through how this meeting's going to go. And
Yeah.
they did the agenda, and, beautiful agenda, was completely familiar with how this meeting was going to go.
I love a good agenda.
And I said to them, so when are you going to listen?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's basically
Which,
what they said. And they're like, "Oh, okay."
a lot of being talked at or talking to,
Yeah,
but not
yeah.
the engagement.
Not the engagement. And what I was hearing, because when I'm talking with the person, I'm tuning into their higher selves. I'm tuning into this higher energy that just has a different perspective, has a different view on what we're so bogged down with on this planet. And we all have this intuition, but we get so dead set on this is how it's going to be. This is the organization. This is how the left brain critical thinking is. But if we pause and bring in our intuitive sense, which is right brain creative thinking, which is it's nonverbal.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
you
really
know,
it's all the emotions and the feelings and our body language, I would assume.
yeah, yeah. And so he said, I'm going to build that in. I'm going to build that into the top. And I said, and I was hearing very clearly, might have to stray from your agenda. You might have to stray from this PowerPoint. You might
Which
have
I'm
to stray.
sure just made them super thrilled.
It was a tense moment. And then when we talked about it more, it gave space. It gave
Mm,
space to what they were trying to do because it gave space that they didn't need to necessarily come in with all of the answers, but to come in partnership and to come in relation and say, we want to hear what you have to say. And we want to take time for you to ingest this, but also ask questions and talk about how this resonates with you and talk about if anything's hitting here. We don't just want to say we're in at 9, out at 9:50, coffee, muffins, bye.
yeah.
And it was a big thing. And after that meeting, we talked, and what had come up in conversation when they decided to add that in is that this company wasn't about music at all, but someone said something about music, and it took the meeting in a completely different trajectory. And the company has access to music talent,
Mm,
and they could start to pull that in. And so, the presentation didn't flow like they had been working months on, but they knew it so well that they could plug and play. And again, having that space and being prepared and not, oh God, we're off track. Let me get back to slide 7. It allowed them a much more neutral and calm place to be in. And this person said, as soon as they said that, I thought of you. And I teach a practice that we can talk about, but where it's creating space between you and the present situation that you're in right now. So it's almost like you've got an eagle eye view over it
yeah.
rather than in it.
Well, and I think having those conversations and having that open dialogue and all of that, you are going to get such a diversity of ideas because there could be the intern in the room who
Yes,
you like originally aren't going to ask and they're just sitting there and et cetera, but like they could have phenomenal ideas or something that's just so different than what everybody else has been cognitively, on the hamster wheel of thinking like this is how we do it, this is how we've done it before. And like the new perspective that like can brought in can completely change a project or the direction of a company or a call or client relations, all of those things.
exactly. And I know, we talk and you talk about generational leadership.
Mhm.
And I mean, if that's not the perfect example that you just said, where the ideas can come from anywhere. And when you create that space, it doesn't necessarily come from, a 18, 19, 20, 21-year old, where again,
Yeah.
our brains are like, they're too young, they're too young. But you can take nuggets from it, or you could, take the whole idea. But being open and seeing that, like you said, it changes the vibration in the room. It changes the energy in the room. It changes the enthusiasm in the room. And if people are put off by that, then that's not the right alignment.
Yeah.
And there's a magic to that because it comes back to kind of what we were talking about where I decided to leave. It's your choice in that point. It's not saying, oh God, I need this client to make a record-breaking deal and my job depends on it. Da, 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 da.
Mhm.
No, it's, you know what? Here's how I'm going in. Here's my intention. Here's my alignment. Really valued what this intern said. That lights me up. I can see the smile on this person's face. Oh, this person has a sourpuss face. That's okay. They're just not in alignment with this higher vibration and energy.
Which completely makes sense. And I would think that that is probably one of the biggest misconceptions people have about bringing this kind of work into the professional setting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's unknown for a lot of people.
And I mean, when you're bringing in this kind of diverse conversation and this just very different way of viewing not only a problem, but like an organization or a team and your leadership style and all of those things, how does that end up then affecting people's self-care and mental health for those who are super high performers and very A-type? Hi, she's right over here, and all of
Mhm.
those things. How is
Yeah.
that affecting their overall, the company or the orgs or just an individual's idea of mental well-being?
Yeah. It's unbelievable to watch because it doesn't happen in the way that most people think it happens. So when we take care of ourselves and do things that we enjoy, let's say I just had someone who went to a concert, and we talked about them sharing that in their Monday morning meeting. And it was a very vulnerable thing for them to do. And when they did that, the amount of new people that would come up and just strike up a conversation, would get emails, like, this whole rapport started with people, and it trickled out. And this person ended up doing a team outing with like musicians, like for leadership and like how
Oh,
rhythm
cool.
and like coherence. And I don't know if you've heard of heart math. But it's
No, I have not.
basically the coherence between the heart and the brain. They're doing an amazing scientific, it's organization, amazing scientific work about how when the heart is in coherence with other people's hearts, and the way that you do that is you have your heart with your brain. If you've ever been around horses, you'll
Yeah.
notice, yeah, like if a horse doesn't trust you, doesn't, want to be around you, they're like later, and they take off, and they're
Yeah.
not, and it's very similar. It's a very similar kind
Well,
of
they're all about the vibes and the
that's it.
intuition and the energy.
That's right. That's right. So from that, vulnerable, and he was taking care of himself by going to this concert because it's not something that they would do.
Yeah.
It was, 6 o'clock or something. He needed to leave the office, and that was at half day, right? But they did it, and what paid off from that is just the validation, and that's what our intuition does. It's not making. Sometimes it is making a huge leap, but we use intuition every day when we decide what to eat, when we decide what to wear, when we decide what route we're going to take to work. These are all things. And if our intuition is telling us, you know what, take a different route today, there might be a billboard that you see that sparks creativity, that it sparks a conversation that then leads to something else. That's also something that I want people to take away. Intuition doesn't have to be like life-changing moments. It's just a sense that if we follow it and we learn to trust it, it brings us synchronicities that we couldn't even possibly imagine.
I mean, and you've talked about how doing this can help someone like discover their core values. How does
Mhm.
that process look like? Because I think we all think that we have, core values of kindness or empathy or whatever it may be that just might be the buzzwords you're using.
Mhm.
So, how does it work to use intuitive guidance to
Yeah.
discover your core values?
Yeah, so we start with, what are your core values? Freedom, for me, that was a big one. Work,
Yeah.
freedom, and that was a value. And then my beliefs of that was, if I make this much money, then I'll be free.
Mm,
And it's like, ooh, that's actually not it. So we start to go through, okay, how much money would you need to make in order to sustain, okay, let's look at ways that we could do that that are really lining up to your value. And so the value, if it's truly a value and it's what you believe in, loyalty is another big one. Okay. The story that I hear a lot is, well, they've been my friend for 40 years. I have to be loyal to them.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's take a look at this friend's behavior. Let's take a look at your relationship. Let's take a look how you've treated each other. What if, they've kind of served their purpose, and for this time right now, we're going to take a little break. And
Yeah.
the loyalty is going to be to yourself. And so we start to really, hone in on those values through what beliefs you've been utilizing to uphold them. And a lot of times it's an old story.
Well, it's switching that mindset to being your values for affecting everyone else and like more self-care and self-serving for yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. And
And
that's
that's amazing.
the first sense, because that's what we came into this world really doing. And then people are, well, you're selfish or this or blah, 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 and that compounds. And then we go external. Well, okay, then I need to, make sure everybody's happy so that I can feel okay. And this is just it's again bringing that intuitive self back online. And we're old enough now to have compassion and empathy for others, but not let that be an intrusion to our own self-worth.
I mean, it's setting boundaries. We love boundaries. We're here
Yes, we
for the
do.
boundaries. It's just
Yeah.
taken a while for boundaries to be a hip thing where we're all like, no, sorry, I've got boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to be a nicer person to you
Mhm.
because I have boundaries. I
Yeah.
promise.
No,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
What's your advice for someone who wants to lead with more intention but doesn't even know where to start?
Um, I think, we've talked about this a little bit, but what you would say, if I'm leading with more intention, be very specific on what that means to you, because specificity is what's going to supply you with the meaning. And it's not a goal, but I would set your intention for your week. Just start off pretty
Yeah.
easy, and meditate. If you meditate, there's many different ways to meditate. Gratitude is a fantastic one. It gets the energy up, and I always say full body gratitude. So it's not just like I'm grateful for my house. It's like really feeling like I am so grateful for my home. I'm so great. And like you can feel the difference. It's not just like naming them off. So if you're standing in line or you're stuck in traffic, really, just name 3 things that you're grateful for and feel them all the way down into your belly, into your feet. I do this sometimes in the shower. I'm grateful for the hot water, because my mind will run wild in the shower. Journaling is fantastic. Automatic writing, it's a fun exercise. You can set a timer for 5 minutes even, and just start writing till that timer goes up. If you don't know what to write, you just write, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write until you do. And then, for a week, just go back to that intention and see how your body is responding after those practices. And then also in the week, if you're working in a corporate world or environment, even if you're an entrepreneur, you can do this with anything. Listen to a coworker in a different way.
Mm.
So that intention of if, whatever your intention is, but if your intention is to maybe listen differently, it's really being present. It's not having your mind race. It's not reading, what do they really mean or letting the story go, but just sit there and listen and be that reflection for that other person. And you'll be amazed at how, because you're taking care of yourself with the gratitude and with some quiet time, you're able to show up differently for other people. They can feel it.
I love that. So, some rapid fire questions I want to ask. What is
Yeah.
one energy practice you use every day?
Every single day, in my notes app, I, I basically ask the universe. I said, surprise, delight me with a gift or a miracle every single day, and every single day I get one.
I love that.
And
I'm going to
so I've got,
manifest for that.
yeah, I have 4 years worth, and, and I put it in my notes app, and it can be as small as a neighbor dropped off a basket of avocados the other day. Like, oh my God, I got some
Yeah.
tamales from a friend the other day. I got a phone call, that's just saying, "Hey, I was just thinking about you. What a gift! What a miracle!" But those are the things.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be grandeur.
No, and then they come. They definitely come. They come big too, but it's those, it's like building a muscle. We're not going to, if you've never run, you're not going to run a marathon tomorrow. You're going to
Yeah.
start small.
No, I love that. What is a lesson that corporate world taught you that still serves you today?
Not everyone's going to like you.
Mm.
And that's okay. And I can do really tough things under a lot of scrutiny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being able to go through that and then coming out the side of doing what I love because I love to do it. It's like, in baseball, you have like a donut on the bat and it's heavy when you
Yeah.
swing. Yeah. And then you take off the donut and it's a light swing and you just like swing for the fences. That's what it feels like.
Oh my God, I love that. That's such a good analogy. What is a misconception about intuition you wish more people understood?
That it's witchy, that it's something that only some people have, that only women have it, that it's a gift that only some people can acquire. We all have it. It's not our job to hunt down our intuition. It's our responsibility to put ourselves in a place to receive it. And so that's probably it. And we've talked about it. We're just remembering it. It's
Yeah,
not something that we really need to work so hard at finding.
I love that. And then one final question that I ask all of my guests. If you could give one piece of advice to your 16-year-old self, what would that be? Is it a different girl?
Yeah. Um, keep the imagination.
Mm.
Yeah, keep my imagination. Don't temper that.
I love that.
Yeah.
It sparks creativity everywhere
Yeah.
in every realm of your life. And I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I love
Thanks.
asking that question.
Yeah,
I'm
it's a
always
good
like,
one.
oh, that's such a good one. That's a good one too. Like, you just learn so many things by doing that.
Yeah, it's nice
So,
to revisit her.
I mean, there we've come so far. Every single
Mhm.
woman I talk to has just come miles. And so I think
Yeah.
it's just phenomenal to be like, what would you tell her though? Like she's definitely different in the journey
Yeah.
we've taken.
Yeah. No, that's a good question.
Yeah. So tell the listeners where they can find you. We've got jencohenintuitive.com, but tell them where else they can find you and some of the offerings that you're giving. And so we can all
Yeah.
find our intuition.
Of course. So my website, which you just mentioned, it's Jen with two N's, Cohen, intuitive. I'm on Instagram under the same, and then LinkedIn under the same. You can email me, you can reach out to me. I could talk about this all day long. So if you've got specific questions, hit me up. It's really my honor, my joy. And then on my website, I've got some packages available. We could just do one-on-ones. If you're interested in more of a direct channeling, I offer that as well, where I can call in, souls, higher selves that have passed, that are still on this earth. If yeah, plants, pets,
All the things.
houses, yeah, all of the things, and then I've also got membership opportunities there as well.
That's amazing. So everyone make sure to go check her out. I think this is something we should all be doing, not just for others that it will affect around us, but for ourselves. Like this is such a good way to do self-care and help yourself heal and grow and just all of the above.
It's how we're going to change the system.
I love that. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for coming on, Jen, and talking about this. You can tell that you're so passionate about it, and that's just so special.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, everybody, we will talk to you next week.